February 1945. Northern Italy. The Gothic Line. A German machine gun opens fire from a concrete bunker carved into the mountainside. The sound is not like the movies, it's faster, more violent. A mechanical scream that tears through cold mountain air. Tracer rounds arc through the darkness like angry fireflies, searching for American flesh. Men hit the frozen ground. Some don't get up, others scream for medics who can't reach them, bleeding out in the dirt while their brothers watch helplessly from cover. This is Castle Aghinolfi, a medieval fortress the Germans have transformed into a killing machine. Every approach is covered by interlocking fields of fire. The attack is collapsing in real time. Officers are down. The chain of command is shattered. Men are pinned, unable to advance, unable to retreat. The mission is failing. And then, through the smoke and chaos, one soldier stands up. Not because he was ordered to. The officers who could give orders are dead or dying. He stands up because if someone doesn't do something right now, every man on this hill will die. His name is Vernon Joseph Baker. He is a second lieutenant in the United States Army. He is 25 years old. He is black. And for the next 52 years, the country he's fighting for will pretend he never existed. To understand what Vernon Baker walked into on that mountain, you need to understand what America was in 1945. While American soldiers were fighting fascism abroad, America itself was still deeply segregated at home. Black Americans could not eat at the same restaurants as white Americans, could not attend the same schools, could not vote in many states without facing violence. The military, the institution meant to defend American democracy, reflected that same racism in every structure. When World War II began, the United States military was completely segregated. Black soldiers served in separate units, under white officers, and were overwhelmingly assigned to labor battalions, supply units, construction battalions. The assumption, stated openly by many white officers, was that black soldiers lacked the intelligence, discipline, and courage for combat. They were good enough to load ammunition, good enough to dig latrines, but not good enough to fight. The irony was staggering. America was fighting Nazi racial ideology while maintaining its own version at home. In 1944, the Army activated the 92nd Infantry Division, nicknamed the Buffalo Soldiers. One of only 2 black infantry divisions to see combat in World War II. But this division carried an enormous burden. They were being watched, evaluated, judged not as individual soldiers, but as representatives of their entire race. Every failure would be used as evidence that the segregationists were right all along. They had to be perfect, in a system designed to ensure they would fail. Vernon Joseph Baker was born in 1919 in Cheyenne, Wyoming. His parents died when he was young. He was raised by his grandparents in a small house where love was abundant but money was not. His grandfather taught him something crucial, that dignity cannot be taken from you unless you surrender it. That respect is earned through action. That you prove who you are by what you do when no one is watching. Vernon was quiet, disciplined, but he had something burning inside him. A need to prove himself, not for recognition, but for his own sense of worth. In 1941, Vernon Baker joined the Army. He knew exactly what he was walking into. But he also knew that war creates opportunities, terrible, bloody opportunities, for men to prove themselves. He went through officer candidate school, one of the few black soldiers accepted. His white instructors watched him carefully, looking for signs of inadequacy. Vernon gave them nothing. He excelled in everything. He graduated as a second lieutenant. By early 1945, he was in Italy leading a weapons platoon. His men trusted him. In combat, soldiers follow officers who know what they're doing, who share their risks, who won't waste their lives. Vernon Baker was that kind of officer. April 5, 1945. The mission briefing. The target is Castle Aghinolfi, a German strongpoint, heavily fortified, strategically critical. Baker's company is assigned to take the high ground. The plan: advance under cover of darkness, assault at dawn, secure the objective. But Vernon Baker has learned that plans are beautiful lies told by men who won't be doing the dying. As he studies the maps, he sees the truth. The approaches are limited. The Germans will have machine guns positioned to create crossfire. This isn't just difficult. This is designed to be a slaughter. But orders are orders. And Baker has learned another truth: black soldiers have to follow orders perfectly because failure will be blamed on their race. So on the night of April 5th, Baker leads his platoon into the darkness toward Castle Aghinolfi. As dawn breaks on April 6, 1945, Company C begins its assault. And immediately, everything goes wrong. The Germans are waiting. When the first American soldiers break cover, the mountain explodes. Machine guns open up from multiple positions. Mortars begin dropping shells with precision. Within minutes, the assault is in chaos. Officers are hit. Sergeants go down. Baker's company commander is wounded almost immediately. The executive officer is killed. Platoon leaders are down. The attack is dissolving into individual soldiers simply trying to survive. And this is where Vernon Baker faces the choice that will define him. He can stay down. Nobody would blame him. The situation is impossible. But Vernon Baker looks at his men, pinned down, exposed, dying, and he knows what staying down means. So Second Lieutenant Vernon J. Baker picks up his Thompson submachine gun, checks his grenades, and does something extraordinary. He stands up, and he attacks. Alone. The first German position is a machine gun nest carved into the hillside. The gun crew has been systematically cutting down American soldiers. Vernon Baker doesn't approach from the expected direction. He moves laterally, using every fold in the terrain. He's not running blindly forward. He's using training, tactical sense, intelligence. But make no mistake, this is still insane. Bullets are snapping through the air around him. Every step forward is a step deeper into a space where death is not a possibility, but a probability. He reaches a position where he can see the machine gun nest clearly. The crew hasn't seen him yet. Baker pulls a grenade, pulls the pin, counts 1, 2, and throws. The grenade disappears into the position, then the explosion, and the machine gun goes silent. One down. But there are more. Baker keeps moving. The adrenaline is singing in his blood. That strange combat cocktail of terror and focus that makes time behave strangely. The second position is an observation post, Germans directing artillery fire onto the American positions below. These men have been calling in the coordinates that are killing his soldiers. Baker approaches from their blind side. War at this range is fast and ugly. Baker fires first. The Germans drop. He moves to the third position, another machine gun nest. The Germans here have realized something is wrong. They're turning their weapon, trying to reorient. Baker doesn't give them time to adjust. Another grenade, another explosion. Another position neutralized. And still he keeps going. He's realized something. The German defenses are designed to repel frontal assault, but they're vulnerable from the flanks. Nobody expected a single soldier to penetrate this deeply. Vernon Baker has become a ghost in their kill zone, dismantling it piece by piece. He destroys a fourth position, then a fifth. Other soldiers, seeing what Baker is doing, begin to move forward. His courage is contagious. Men who were frozen by fear find the ability to move despite fear. They begin supporting his assault, following his example. The German defense is crumbling, not because of overwhelming force, but because one man refused to accept that the situation was impossible. By the time the sun is fully up, Castle Aghinolfi's outer defenses are broken. Baker has personally destroyed 3 machine gun nests, 2 observation posts, and killed or captured numerous German soldiers. The hill that was supposed to be impregnable has been taken, but the cost is staggering. Bodies lie scattered across the slope. Men who were alive at dawn are corpses by mid-morning. Vernon Baker surveys what he's done, what it cost, and feels no triumph, only exhaustion. His superior officers file reports about what happened. They recommend him for the Medal of Honor. But those recommendations have to travel up a chain of command where racism is institutionalized. And somewhere in that journey, something happens. The recommendation is downgraded. The Medal of Honor becomes a Distinguished Service Cross. Baker receives his Distinguished Service Cross in a brief ceremony. It's the second highest award for valor the Army can give. But Baker knows what happened. He knows what he did on that hill. And he knows other soldiers, white soldiers, have received the Medal of Honor for less. He doesn't complain, doesn't protest. What would be the point? You do your job. You lead your men. You complete the mission. That's what matters. The war in Europe ends a month later. Cities across America erupt in celebration. Soldiers come home to parades and grateful crowds. Vernon Baker comes home to Wyoming. There are no parades waiting for him. No crowds. No reporters. He's just another black veteran returning to a country that's still segregated. He stays in the Army for a while, then eventually leaves. He becomes a railroad porter. Later, he works for the Red Cross. He lives a quiet life, raises a family, doesn't talk much about the war. When people ask if he received any medals, he mentions the Distinguished Service Cross. And that's usually where the conversation ends. Decades pass. The civil rights movement transforms America, slowly dismantling the legal structures of segregation. Vernon Baker watches from a distance. He retires, moves to Idaho, lives quietly. The war becomes more distant. Most of his neighbors don't know about Castle Aghinolfi. And then, in 1993, something changes. The U.S. Army commissions a study to examine why no African-American soldiers received the Medal of Honor during World War II. The answer has nothing to do with valor and everything to do with racism. Researchers begin digging through old reports, witness statements. They're looking for cases where black soldiers performed actions worthy of the Medal of Honor but received lesser awards instead. Vernon Baker's name comes up. They find the original recommendations. They compare his actions to those of white soldiers who did receive the Medal of Honor. The conclusion is unavoidable. Vernon Baker should have received the Medal of Honor in 1945. He didn't because he was black. It's that simple and that damning. The study identifies 7 African-American World War II veterans whose awards should be upgraded to Medals of Honor. But by 1996, 6 of those 7 men are dead. They lived their entire lives without the recognition they earned. They died never knowing that history would eventually acknowledge what was done to them. Only one is still alive. Vernon Baker. He is 77 years old. January 13, 1997. The East Room of the White House. Vernon Baker stands in a suit that doesn't quite fit, uncomfortable with the attention, with the cameras, with the crowd. President Bill Clinton stands beside him, holding a light blue ribbon from which hangs a 5-pointed star. The Medal of Honor. The recognition that Vernon Baker earned 52 years earlier on a mountain in Italy. Clinton speaks about courage, about sacrifice, about the debt America owes. He acknowledges the injustice, that Baker and millions of other black soldiers fought for a country that didn't fully recognize their humanity. And then he places the medal around Vernon Baker's neck. The room erupts in applause. People are crying. This is supposed to be a moment of triumph, of justice finally served. But Vernon Baker stands there quietly, his face unreadable. When reporters ask him how he feels, he doesn't talk about himself. He says, "I'm just glad it happened while I'm alive. I think about the men who didn't come back." That's all. No speeches about injustice. Just a quiet acknowledgement of the men who died on that hill in 1945 and never received any recognition at all. Vernon Baker carried their memory for the rest of his life. In the years after receiving the Medal of Honor, he became something he never wanted to be: a symbol. Schools invited him to speak. Documentary filmmakers wanted to tell his story. He cooperated, but reluctantly. He didn't see himself as special, but he understood his story wasn't just about him. It was about every black soldier who served in World War II under conditions designed to break them. Every man who had to be twice as brave to be seen as half as worthy. By telling his story, by accepting the recognition, even 52 years late, he was giving voice to all of them. He gave speeches at military academies, talking about leadership. His message was simple: take care of your soldiers. Share their risks. Don't ask them to do anything you wouldn't do yourself. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's doing what needs to be done despite the fear. Vernon Baker died on July 13, 2010, at the age of 90. He was buried at Arlington National Cemetery with full military honors. The eulogies talked about his heroism, his sacrifice, his legacy. All of that was true. But it was also incomplete, because Vernon Baker was simply a soldier who did his job under impossible circumstances. A man who faced a test that would have broken most people and somehow passed it. A man who lived his entire life with quiet dignity, refusing to be diminished by a system designed to diminish him. He proved something that should never have needed proving: that courage has no color, that heroism isn't determined by skin pigmentation. But he also proved something else: that justice delayed is still injustice. That 52 years is too long to wait for recognition you earned in blood. The Gothic line, Italy. The present day. The cliffs of Castle Aghinolfi stand silent now. The bunkers Vernon Baker destroyed have long since crumbled. But if you stand on that hill at dawn, when the light is just breaking and the air is cold and still, you can almost hear it. The sound of one man standing up when everyone else is pinned down. The sound of impossibility becoming possibility. Vernon Baker didn't fight for medals. He fought for his men. He fought because someone had to. And 52 years later, America finally said, "We see you now. We're sorry it took so long. You are a hero." But Vernon Baker already knew that. Not because of the medal around his neck, but because of the men he brought home. The soldiers who survived because he refused to let them die. History will remember Vernon Baker as the first living black soldier to receive the Medal of Honor for actions in World War II. But the whole story is about a man who lived his entire life in a country that underestimated him. And despite all of that, or maybe because of it, he became the best version of himself. Not for recognition, not for glory, but because that's who he was. Vernon Baker stood up when staying down was safer. He advanced when retreating was reasonable. He fought when surrender was understandable, and in doing so, he didn't just take a hill in Italy. He challenged every assumption, every prejudice, every lie that said black soldiers weren't brave enough, smart enough, worthy enough to be heroes. He won that battle too. It just took 52 years for America to admit it. On a forgotten hill in Italy, a man America refused to see proved, without doubt, without qualification, what a hero truly looks like. And when America finally opened its eyes, Vernon Baker was still standing, quiet, dignified, thinking not of himself, but of the men who didn't come back. A soldier, a leader, a hero, not because anyone called him one, but because when the moment came, when everything hung in the balance, when one man's courage could mean the difference between life and death, he stood up. And that made all the difference.